Happy International Women's Day.
Slowly to them, slowly, there will be the time when things will come right, as I've experienced in my community, especially during community meetings. And for LGBTQI, I'm doing the same thing. I'm voicing it when someone just goes past and discriminates one of my friends. Hey, Gauri, I go, if I hear that, I go straight to that person. Look, you're not supposed to say that. It's not you to judge. It's God to judge. And plus, that Gauri person is a normal human being just like you and me. And that person has the right to blah, 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 dance, whatever, do whatever they want. And just like us, we have the right to dance or wear whatever we want to wear. So we are all normal human beings.
Thank you, Joanne, for the conversation. That's very interesting listening to all the conversation that we have been doing right now. For Elizabeth, what are some of the barriers, most significant systematic barriers you have observed, from the perspective of single mother of 9 and also from an academic point of view?
Binaka, I must congratulate Joanne here for actually surpassing my number. I thought I held the record of having the most children in Fiji as a single mother, but she has beaten me. That's a 10 to 9. Very soon I'm planning to catch up on that. But anyway, thank you so much for the very enlightening sharings that you've just shared with us. You touched on the underrepresentation of women in politics and policy making. As well, Joanne, you touched on, how education, in the 7 security pillars that we are focusing on today. Education is one that I wanted to touch on in this the systemic barriers. Like Joanne had shared, she's only reached Form 3, but kudos to you, my friend. That must not discourage you from doing the work that you do. That is the best language, in fact. That's the reality. So many educated people can preach it from the rooftops, but they have not had the experience, the hardcore experience that we've had in the struggles to get to where we are. So that becomes meaningless when you cannot relate to the target audience that you are working with. And for me, like I had shared, I'm also a career woman, and I'm in the process now of pursuing my PhD. Okay, one thing that I found out in this process, I'd like to share. So I won a scholarship from Monash University in Melbourne, and it's a partial scholarship, which caters for certain things in the program, including a stipend and also medical cover. But as a woman and a mother, I like to take my children with me. I'm a single mother, so if I go on my own, my children will be entrusted to somebody, a third party's care, okay? Because I am now divorced from their father. It is my wish as a mother to take my children with me. Now, systemic barriers. The scholarship that I have now won does not cover my children if I want to take them. One of the most expensive things that I had to do was to upgrade the single cover that the scholarship has offered to a family cover if I'm going to have to take my children with me. That is about 41,000 Fijian dollars if you convert it. Okay, so my story went on the papers. TELS called me up. When they called me up, I was like very happy. By then, I had made a call on my Facebook platform, and people had started pouring in money. By the way, this is acknowledging the power of social media. In 24 hours, I had received $22,000. Right. Okay, so back to the scholarship and the systemic barriers that we're talking about. TELS called me up to say that, Miss Wanga, do you understand, do you know that TELS actually has a course sharing scholarship with this number of universities, including Monash? I said, no, that's news to me, and it's wonderful news. So are you going to give me 41,000? They invited me to come down and complete the forms and all. In the conversation, the outcome of the conversation was I only got to find out that TELS, which is our only scholarship body in Fiji, is offering the very same things that I am already covered for. You know, it does not, to me, it's not a cost sharing thing because they're giving you everything that you already have anyway. To me, if the government, if TELS is really in the business of bridging this gap for us women and our participation, like Tanj had mentioned, you know, we're underrepresented in nearly all decision making or policy making spheres. If we are really serious about women's equality in politics, in education, in health, education is very key to that. So where do they step in? They step in to bridge this gap for us. They should, you know. Okay, so these universities are already offering this. These women are mothers. These women are carers and nurturers of our future. Let's bridge that gap to allow them to go as a unit. You know, we all are witnesses to the social ills that our society is now struggling to address. Let's talk about drugs. Let's talk about prostitution. Let's talk about all of that. Removing a mother who is trying to pursue her education, to further her education from her children, is only enhancing those social ills. It's only adding fuel to fire, which is already exploding in our society. So to me, that is a very, very critical area which I am actually calling the policymakers and in fact NGOs and feminist activists to call out attention to.
Thank you so much, Elisabeth, for the sharing that you have shared with us this morning. Litiana, as a focal point for gender and human rights, can you share an example of an initiative or action you have taken to address gender inequality and its impact?
Sure. So pretty much just following on from the amazing knowledge shared by my colleagues here on the panel. We also at AFG acknowledge the lack of representation in policy spaces. So we push for youth and women inclusion, especially in policy talks. So recently we were in the space hosted by IDA International, which was looking at temporary special measures on having a more inclusive government. Basically having more women in government, because we have one of the lowest rates in the Pacific of women inclusion in our governance. So we pushed for that. We were able to get into the room and have our voices heard there. We also pushed to have youth and women voices heard in policy making spaces around deep sea mining, which is a really big issue that is rising in the Pacific recently. And so so with AFG we push a lot to be represented in policy spaces. We also do a lot of grassroots advocacy. We go into villages and conduct workshops. I feel in the last 2-3 years, 2021, 2022, we visited Tonga village, Navalau and Rambasara. And we conducted workshops with more than 70 plus youth and just educating them on the intersectionality of climate disasters and gender-based violence and how they correlate and how as I had mentioned earlier, how disasters, how we've noticed that GBV is exacerbated during post-disasters. Specifically in Tonga and Rambasanga and the workshops there, we worked with youth to be able to draft their own disaster plans, and whilst drafting that disaster plans, to do it using a gender lens, putting yourselves in women's shoes, in the shoes of youth and children, and how they would want to mitigate disasters as they come along. What else can I say? Last year we started to conduct human trafficking workshops around Fiji. So we went to all the divisions, we went up north, we went to the west, And we realized that traffickers target places that are very vulnerable. And now with the climate catastrophes increasing, we're becoming more and more vulnerable, especially our women and youth. So this is another thing that we have to watch out for. So that was an initiative that AFG took to go into these areas, to go around Fiji and to raise awareness on human trafficking. And it was really surprising to note how little awareness there is about there is out there on human trafficking. And I know that when I speak of human trafficking, we go straight to like the movies and sex trafficking and stuff, but the largest percentage of trafficking that happens in the Pacific is for labor trafficking, and they target villages and they target women who can't really read and write, and they take them overseas to go and work as carriers in first world countries, even in countries like Tonga. They take Fijian village women into Tonga to go and work as carriers and underpay them, take their passports to make sure they don't like leave, things like that. So this is some of the grassroots advocacy work that AFG does, and then all the way into policy spaces.
Thank you. I think that's one of the issues that I found, like, going around into the rural areas. We hardly talked about human trafficking, and one of the meetings that I was in with the Ministry of Defense, they don't have data for human trafficking, and then that's the worst thing. And, when you want to work in collaboration with other stakeholders, we need data so that we can go around to do our work in terms of awareness and for the community. Moving on with our conversation, Taj, can you share more examples of initiatives or actions you have taken to address gender equality and its impact?
Yeah, just in terms of, I always talk about is definitely the multi-stakeholder approach. So, in terms of, and I, in 2020, I became the ambassador for Get Safe Online, which is in UK. So they actually approached us to become ambassadors. We participated in their various causes and all. So just to start off with, I like 9 years ago, I joined one of the organizations, and so me being in the ICT field, so when I joined that organization, I only saw 3 women working. The rest were all men and boys. So I was then very young and just doing my work and all. So, and then I realized later on when I joined the Online Safety Commission, the representation of girls, women and girls in the ICT field. So through these Get Safe Online projects, and people started approaching, I started going out to the schools and talking to the girls, specifically taking ICT courses. And when I personally talked to some of the girls, they said just because my parents told me to do arts, or just they told me to do accounting and all. So I said, why not ICT? Because the mindset was that only boys can do ICT, or boys can do software engineering, So I said, what stops you for doing like software engineering? Because my parents do not support these studies. So I think a lot of key roles played by parents in the education of the children. So this is where I say parents also need to hear out what the children would like to study. This is and you would know better about that as well, because you have children. And I mean, I do not have children, but what I'm listening from outside from the children, particularly, that they're not heard in terms of their education as well, especially differentiating between a boy and a girl. So boys are heard and they study whatever they want to, but girls are given a choice, so this is more important. So, and I have been going out to the schools, talking around with the girls, especially the ones who are going to pursue their career in the universities. And just by talking to them, a lot of them raise their hand that they want to do software engineering, they want to be part of these organizations, like big organizations that do things like ICT and all. So I started advocating for those programs, like you can do it, and these are all like higher paid jobs that you can actually get. And then I shared examples of when I joined actually one of the organizations, when I can, beat that barrier with so many men working. I mean, any girls can actually do that, provided you have the knowledge and you have the support. The main thing is this.
Budging there.
Yeah.
You touched on girls being allowed to make their own choices in terms of career. I believe this is something very important for us mothers. Most times we as parents have become backseat drivers. We actually drive our children to make the choices that we want. That's one thing. But the other thing is the awareness. As women, most of us, I was a young mother when I started. I was 21 when I had my first child. So most of us actually grow with our children. We get to learn parenting because there's no school for parenting. We must admit that. So you don't know it all. That's one thing we must accept as mothers. We grow with our children. We learn as we go on. And I think also that is why our firstborn are kind of disadvantaged, because they are actually the guinea pigs for our parenting. What you filled in with your first one, you get to improve on the next ones. So that's one lesson that I have learned, but it was also a lesson that I had been a part of personally. When I had to make my choices for subjects at Form 5 level, my brother, who was supporting me financially then, basically told me I need to take this. I needed to take accounting and economics, even though my dream was to be a doctor. Was to pursue science and become a doctor. So as a Fijian, as a Fijian sister, you must obey, especially if he's leading you. You need to. Right? So under the circumstances, I gave up my dreams. I gave up my dreams at that age. At 14, I gave it up so I can live my brother's dream. I'm sharing this experience so for us mothers, we get to understand how much we are impacting our children with the decisions that we are trying to make for them. And so if I were to spell out my educational journey, I attained a BCom, Bachelor of Commerce, from the University of South Pacific. But my master's was a Master of Science, MSc. I was always looking for the opportunity because my passion and my dreams were always in the science. So it is reflected in my path as well. Even though I had attained very good grades in my BCom, very good GPA, I was still at heart a science person. I still wanted to pursue my dream in that sense. So when I was given the opportunity, I grabbed it to get my Master of Science. And that's why, in my case, my educational journey had been delayed years because I was not living my own dream. I was living somebody else's dream. And I'm just calling on all mothers to please pay attention. Your girls' dreams are valid. Your girls' dreams are supposed to be their future, not yours. You are done. Take it from me. You are done. Okay? You are their mother. Your job is to nurture, is to provide guidance. Your job is not to make decisions for them, especially if it has to do with their future. So this year, my child number 3 is now at university. When I asked her, so what are you taking? My dreams for her and watching her grow up and how she does things, my dream for her was, she's going to be a perfect doctor, But she's chosen a different field from what I had wanted. Imagine my almost depressed state when she told me her choice. She's taking psychology because she wants to be a counselor. And I'm like, really, woman? what the hell for? Why are you wasting all of this? You know, I was throwing back her transcript so she can be reminded she's very good in biology and all of that, so she can pursue my dream. You know, my dream that she can become a very good doctor. But that I had to accept was mine. It was mine, and I had to acknowledge this is what she wants to be. So I had to go back to her. Okay. If you need any guidance around the USP campus or anything like that, let me know. But your career is yours to handle, and your career path is yours alone to pursue. You know, as mothers, we are meant to support and not redirect.
Yeah.
We're not come.
Thank you. You want to continue with your conversation?
No, I think she's.
Don't be shy.
No,
Don't be shy.
the only thing I was going to say was just in terms of the conversations that we had is just a suggestion is please do not drive your child with your dreams. You know, let them.
Yes.
Because I have
themselves.
and you know I have personally also seen like my relatives and families they drive their dreams on their children, and what happens at the end of the day, they do not want to continue to study.
Yes.
They stay home.
That's
true.
That can
And-
also
and-
contribute to
Yes,
dropping
because
out.
just because they weren't given their choice, you know.
Their interest is not in that area.
Yes. So yeah, that's all we can speak about in terms of our examples.
Touch. Back to Elizabeth as a digital creator. What are some of the examples of an initiative or actions that you have taken to address the gender inequality?
Oh, for me, for those that follow me and know me, I think I do that every day on my page. In fact, my contents are basically that, advocating for women. I guess I don't really do it to address gender inequality, but I try and do it indirectly by encouraging women to pursue their dreams, by encouraging women to be good mothers. Because as mothers, we have a very huge calling on how our society is going to be.
Yes.
The health of our society, in fact, is on our shoulders. You know, I'm not discounting fathers in the process. There are, in fact, some good fathers around. Yeah. But, you know, as mothers, we are the first focal point for our children. I'm also sad to say and acknowledge that there are some mothers that are not. There are some fathers who are single parents and do become that first call point for the children, and we do acknowledge them and we appreciate them very much. But as mothers, and of course single fathers, as the first point of contact for our children, as the port of call, maybe when they are faced with indecisions, when they are confused about a situation, maybe when they're at crossroads, they come to us. I hope they come to us, because we can really be the last person they come to as well. I hope we realize our role in society is huge. I hope we realize what we give our children, the direction that we give them, determines, you know, it influences their choices. It makes them or breaks them. It can direct them to the right path, or it can just throw them right off it. So we must be responsible parents. We must be responsible mothers and sisters as well. Some of us may not be mothers, but we are sisters. We are sisters not only to our blood sisters, you know, we are sisters to other mothers, to other women in our circles. Be a good sister by advocating what is good, by, you know, planting these seeds. Just because you're not a mother, you didn't birth a child into this world, doesn't mean you're not a mother. You know, you can be if you even don't identify yourself as a mother, you are a sister to somebody. Even though you know, you may be the only child and think, I don't have sisters. My darling, you have sisters. You have sisters, and you have a huge role in just being that. Yeah, we know.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Joanne, from the perspective of, you know, as a coordinator, co-coordinator for Guardian, what are some of the examples of the initiative or actions that you have taken to address gender inequalities?
I would say I am so blessed that I am now the CEO of Apple Gardens of Fiji. The whole reason I believe that I became the CEO of Apple Gardens was